Now, if I just saw these numbers, I would say this isn't natural. He tore his pec at a first or second degree sprain, couldn't train for about 4 to 6 weeks, and put on a 32% increase in his bench press. Coach Greg, in today's video, Matt Davila, close to 4 million followers, he decides he's going to be a powerlifter. And guess what? He dedicates an entire 100 days. Many people have competed in powerlifting in the past, guys like Jesse James West or Will Tennyson, and they prepared for this in only a short matter of time. But they were avid weightlifters for years, perhaps a decade. And so let us see, is 100 days enough? Does he dedicate himself? Does he even make it to the competition? Stay tuned and find out.
I joined a professional powerlifting competition with only 100 days to prepare. The only problem? I've never powerlifted before. I have no technical training, and I kind of don't even know what it is.
And so he doesn't even know what a powerlifting meet is, but he decides he's going to train and compete in it. Well, let me tell you this. It's a squat, the bench, and the deadlift. You lift 3 attempts in each one. The heaviest left counts. You add it up, and whoever lifts the most is, in fact, the winner.
Before I start training, I want to weigh in and get my body measurements. I want to get an accurate look at what I look like before and after powerlifting, so I'm not going to flex. This is me not flexing.
Remember, I have no idea who this guy is, but I'm watching him flexing the biceps. Very impressive physique. And perhaps I went too hard on him. I was saying, yeah, as if he could get ready in 100 days. Clearly, the guy works out. This physique is clearly way above average. And if he looks like this and he hasn't worked out, this is elite, top-tier genetics. But please, please tell me this guy has been lifting for 10 years, because looking at this physique, this is a lot of work. Amazing six-pack, the biceps, the chest, massive. Guy has a ton of muscle, and so I'm expecting him to do great things in powerlifting.
Currently 5'8" and weigh 158 pounds. And here's the full rundown of all my body measurements. I'll be doing a comparison at the end of the experiment to see how big I actually get.
And so the guy is 5'8", 158 pounds. I personally think he's natural. I don't have proof. I don't know for sure. I haven't seen before and after photos, but he looks natural. He's 5'8". That's 2 inches taller than Coach Greg and only weighs 158. And so let that be a lesson to you. You don't have to be 200 pounds to look good. 158 pounds at 5'8". This guy, he looks incredible.
If you're wondering, my biceps measure in at 15 inches.
And 15-inch arms weighing 158, that's almost 1 inch per 10 pounds. Very impressive measurements.
My squat was 185 pounds. My bench was 200 pounds. And my deadlift was 256 pounds.
And so scrap that. Far below average strength for a guy that's been training since college. Squat 185 pounds, bench press 200, deadlift 256. And so, okay, so he has an amazing physique, but is very weak. Other than the bench press, 200 pounds, not too shabby. But to squat less than you can bench press, well, on second thoughts, when I was 22 and entered my first powerlifting meet, I literally deadlifted 355, I squatted 275, and I benched 341.7. Remember these numbers clear as day. And so perhaps it's just that he hasn't trained them ever before. He goes to the gym and he's working on that upper body physique. You know, the one that doesn't involve training your legs. And so he's avoided deadlifting, he's avoided squatting, and so that's why his numbers are so weak. Now, for a 158-pound female, if they were to enter a powerlifting competition, oftentimes they will squat more than this, deadlift more than this, but the bench press for that body weight, very impressive. And so at this point, he is equal to a very strong female on the bench press. The other lifts, they're below average. For powerlifters.
So this is the official USA powerlifting rule book. It includes hundreds of rules and guidelines for performing each lift.
And so if you are going to enter a powerlifting meet, it's way better to ask a powerlifting coach or have somebody who competes to tell you the rules, because who wants to read all those rules? Also, it's better to see it than to read about it. As soon as you watch someone do it properly, you copy them. Way easier than last time.
His real name is Sebastian Orib, and he agreed to train me for a day. But not only is he insanely strong, he's also the strength coach for Thor Bjornsson.
And so no big deal. He just goes out and gets Thor's coach. I mean, it's his first powerlifting meet. He squats less than he can bench. He deadlifts 256 pounds, and he gets Thor's coach to train him.
I've got just 3 hours with Sebastian, who goes by Bass, to learn everything I can about powerlifting.
good. In general, that was pretty good.
And so one thing I want to make perfectly clear for all the sumo deadlift haters out there, you're allowed to do sumo deadlifts in competition. If I were coaching him and he said that his deadlift max is 256 pounds, I'd be like, have you tried sumo? Because 256 for a man who's been training for multiple years and who has an incredible physique, it's very far below average. And so I don't want to be too insulting, but I can tell you that at 13 years of age, I could in fact deadlift that much weight. Just saying.
Your stance should be hip width and the barbell should be about 1 inch away from your shins.
Yep.
Now what I want you to do is grab the bar on the outside of your legs.
And so perhaps it's his technique. He's doing it conventional. Remember, I pull sumo. A lot easier for some people to pull sumo than conventional. And so if we widen his stance, do sumo style, he perhaps could deadlift maybe 5,000 pounds, right? I mean, sumo's so much easier than conventional. I'm sure if he switches over to sumo for conventional, he'll pull at least 8 plates on each side on day 1.
Down, heels down. 1. Yeah, you got 3, 2, 1 more, 1 more. My highest priority is movement, and I did not think I'd get someone to be able to move that well.
And so clearly he's an experienced lifter. The guy on day 1 has excellent technique. The coach is very impressed. And as he says, how much weight you're lifting, it doesn't matter. The Rock knows it doesn't matter, but what does matter is your form. If you just go into the gym and train and ego lift all the time, you're going to get injured. We don't want to get injured. But if you learn the proper lifting techniques from day 1, then by day 100, you'll be stronger than friggin' last time. And that's what we want.
Okay, so my ideal split is 4 days per week.
And so he says you only need to commit 4 days a week to be a powerlifter, which is not bad. That's 4 out of 7 days. You're hardly working out more than half of the time. And I have to agree with that. It's not the same as training for a bodybuilder with so many more muscle groups. Most people who are training for powerlifting are not going to focus on, for example, the biceps, the calves, certain muscles as much as they do for powerlifting. And because it is in fact a 1 rep max competition, you have to start to gradually lift heavier than last time and lower your reps. And so if you're, for example, 10 weeks out from a powerlifting competition, perhaps you're doing sets of 10. But as the weeks go by, you start increasing the load and decreasing the reps. So for example, as each week goes by, you could reduce a rep. 9 weeks out, you're doing 9. 4 weeks out, 4 reps. 3 weeks out, 3 reps, and so on. And so what that does is it gradually allows your body to get used to a heavier load while reducing the repetitions, which prepares you for lifting your 1 rep max in competition. Now, one thing I suggest that you don't do is to max out all the time. You're going to be very tempted as a powerlifter to just see how strong you are every single week. But doing that, it's a mistake. You could easily get injured. And so remember, we're taking our time reaching that 1 rep maximum in competition.
So this is all about skill acquisition. Okay, so it's 3 reps of these really complex powerlifting movements.
And so what this coach is doing, remember, he's a very educated and knowledgeable powerlifter, but I have a different method. And remember, all methods are okay. I've coached world champion powerlifters in the past. I've actually set world records myself. And so just because we train differently doesn't mean that one of us is training wrong. I prefer to do higher reps further out from competition. He said he's 117 days out. He's doing 5 sets of 3. There's nothing wrong with that, but my train of thought is that we should be doing higher reps. We should be trying to build more muscle. Remember, the category he's entering is 75 kilograms. That's 165 pounds. He weighs 158. And so what I would want to do is for the training to cause muscle hypertrophy. We could in fact learn how to do these exercises while building muscle at the same time. Not to say you can't build any muscle doing sets of 3, but certainly I don't believe doing sets of 3, nowhere near failure, is going to build as much muscle as doing sets of 10, 12, and so on. But one advantage of doing fewer reps is that you have more practice with a heavier load that's closer to what you're going to be lifting in competition. Because when you're doing a set of 10, 12 repetitions, for example, the weight is a lot lighter, and so you don't get the same feel as when you're lifting a 1 rep max.
If we do high reps for these squats and bench press and deadlift while you're learning them, the risk of technical breakdown is high.
And so there you have it. He has the explanation. Rather than doing set of 10, he likes to do set of 3 because in his experience, after people do the first few reps, their technique, it breaks down. He's trying to train their technique. And so a very good argument. I see nothing wrong with doing this. And if your goal is purely powerlifting, and you don't care about building a lot of muscle, just strength, then I believe his method's probably better than mine. However, I'm always thinking about building muscle. I've yet to meet a guy that said, yeah, I don't want to build muscle. And so I personally like to see higher reps than last.
Strengthsystem.com/Matt. That's where Bass is going to be selling the program. Full transparency, we're going to be splitting the revenue.
And so I love the transparency. They're advertising the powerlifting. They're going to split the profits on it. It costs a lot of money to compete in powerlifting coach and all that. And so props to these guys. Very happy to see that they can earn money doing their videos and making people learn more about the sport that I love, which is powerlifting.
I think we could probably get you to 160 kilo squat. We can get you to 120 kilogram bench press. We can get you to about 180 kilograms.
And so absolutely phenomenal gains in strength. I was guessing about a 50% increase. He's saying 98%, 55%, 32%. Remember, he's already very strong in the bench press, so less gains on the table. But if you've never squatted before, there's a very high learning curve. It's kind of like newbie gains in terms of building muscle. When you first learn an exercise, you get very strong very quickly. It's very fun. And so in the first 100 days of powerlifting, you could be addicted to the dopamine rush, getting this much stronger. Think of it. In 3, 4, 5, 6 months, you're twice as strong as we were when you started. And so imagine on day one, you only could squat 135 pounds. But 6 months later, you're 270 pounds. You're twice as strong in only 6 months. That's amazing. Imagine having 50 pounds of muscle on your body and 6 months later having 100 pounds of muscle. Incredible. And so the sport of powerlifting, it can be very motivating because it's very easy to see your strength go up each and every week when you first start.
So 1 week into my program, how have things been going? I mean, honestly, it's almost too easy. Like, this is just... it's a breeze.
And so I like hearing this. It was very easy from day one. He feels like it's a breeze. Oftentimes when people start a new training program, they train way too hard. They're very ego. They do 2-a-day training. The coach is yelling and screaming, go harder than last time, go to failure. This is not what you want to do. You want to start out going easier than you expect. It should feel like warm-up weights. If you go hard at all when you first start, especially on a squat, are you kidding me? You're going to be sore for multiple days.
Okay, yeah, no, this routine has absolutely destroyed me.
And scratch that. He's saying, wow, am I ever sore? And so remember this, the first day when you do it, it might have felt easy, but the day after that, when DOM sets in, delayed onset muscle soreness, that is when you know just how hard you work. And so if you experience this, it means you went too hard. You could have went easier. Rather than using such a heavy weight, use a lighter weight or do fewer reps. Don't go to close to failure, and please save the harder workouts for later. Remember, progressive overload. Start easy and slowly over time, you go hard.
I think it's fair to say that I'm pretty much a fitness influencer now, which means that I need to start promoting performance-enhancing products.
Is this guy being sarcastic? I'm loving this guy. I've never heard of Matt Davila, but man, this guy is awesome. I'm loving watching his video. Remember, I've never even watched this in advance. I was scrolling the internet saying, what video can I react to? And I see this guy and it's 1 million views on a powerlifting video. I'm like, how can I not respond to this? He just said, hey, I'm a fitness influencer now, and so I have to promote performance-enhancing products. Love this guy.
That's why I'm really excited to share my sponsor for this week's video, All Natural Squarespace.
Squarespace, I thought he was going to say Turk Builder or Ecti Builder to build out more muscle than last time. Have you guys seen my latest video talking about WADA and the drug testing and trying to see if they can ban this product? But the problem is, it's sold out because everyone wants to buy it because it's that amazing. Perhaps I should also be promoting Squarespace, but no, I'll stick to harder than last time supplements after all. And by the way, code Greg gives you 15% off all supplements, and that includes GO2 Max for endurance cardio if you need more endurance and cardio. And of course you do. You need more energy, you're a father. And so if you're looking to maximize your energy to perform cardio, lift weights, and so on, GO2 Max, look no further. Click the link in the description, code Greg, 15% off.
So he said it's probably a 1st or 2nd degree tear. Probably 4 to 6 weeks before I can bench press again.
And one thing I want to point out on the bench press is you're a lot more likely to get injured when you're lifting very heavy with low reps, which is what he was doing. Remember, the coach said we're going to train heavier, want to get used to that. Nothing wrong with that, but it does make you more susceptible for injury. In comparison, Coach Greg, for example, at 10 weeks out, we'd be doing sets of 10. And so although it might not be as heavy, it's a lot safer. Now, one thing that you have to do, I'm talking about must do this to be safe when bench pressing to avoid pec tear, is pause the weight at the chest on each and every rep. I know it's tempting to just touch and go. Slam the weight, bounce the weight off to get that PR, to get your ego higher than last time. But what you need to do is leave your ego at the door. And yeah, you're not going to be able to bench press as much, perhaps 20 pounds less. But when you do that pause, it takes away the stretch reflex, which makes it far safer for your body. Not only that, when you're powerlifting in competition, you have to pause. And so why not get used to it? Why not make the lift look as close to what you're going to do on the platform as you do in practice? That is how you get good. And so if you are in fact a powerlifter, or if you're scared, perhaps you're on performance enhancing drugs, you're more susceptible to getting injured, please pause your reps. And so unfortunately experienced a first or second degree tear while doing the bench press, and he says he's not going to be able to perform that lift for 4 to 6 weeks. But hey, these things happen in the gym, and what I suggest is you train around the injury. Now, just because you can't bench press doesn't mean you can't necessarily train legs, back, and so on. And so depending on where the injury is, I suggest you do the exercise that don't affect it. And so for example, when I tore my triceps off the bone, did it once on this side, again on the other, I trained the rest of my body. I never used that as an excuse to not go to the gym. I found excuses to go to the gym. Or for example, when I had that hip operation, I was hopping around the gym on crutches, going to the beach on crutches, not giving up my life. I was still training. 3 days after the operation, I'm in the gym and I'm training and I'm crushing it in the gym. And no, of course, I couldn't squat, I couldn't train legs, but I could, of course, train my upper body. And once I was given the okay, I trained the good side, the left leg. So I ignored the actual injury and I trained every single other muscle besides that. I've been injured multiple times in my life. Think of it. When you're an elite athlete and you're training at the highest level, you're bound to get injured. There's accidents that can happen. You can get sick. But if you use that as an excuse to do nothing, to sit on the couch and eat junk food, well, that's on you.
But he's like, you can do other upper body. Like you can do shoulders, you can do back, you can do your deadlifts and squats and lower body. So,
but here's the thing. His bench is already his best lift. And so what it allows him to do is have his other lifts catch up. And so just because he can't bench press, he can still squat and deadlift. And so those lifts will continue to improve. So you still feel good about yourself rather than thinking, oh, I'm injured, I'm taking an entire month off. Big mistake. You go and you do the other things, and I would also suggest you do your cardio. If you can't train with weights because you have an injury, your chest, for example, does not mean you can't sit and ride on a stationary. And so please find a reason to train, get out and move, and don't use this as an excuse to just eat junk. Please stick on your diet.
Despite my injury, I got back to training and eating and training and eating.
And so I can tell you firsthand, when you have about 4 million followers, you're not hurting for money. I don't want to say how much he's making. Clearly, I don't know. Now, remember this. The guy has 4 million followers. He certainly has the money to afford a chef, a meal prep service of some sort, some way to help his life get easier. And when you consider the return of investment, if you hire a chef or somebody to make your meals and so on, and let's say it saves you an hour from your day, you can use that hour to then work for yourself. If he's making perhaps $1,000 an hour doing other things, and he pays somebody $50 an hour to do his work for him, then he's netting $950 extra dollars. This is how you effectively use your time. If you're a guy with 4 million followers and you're not making bank, and I'm talking over $1 million a year minimum, you're doing something wrong. And if you aren't, call up Coach Greg. I'll help you out.
It's a lot of weight. I have never lifted this much before.
Boom.
I am feeling so much.
I mean, is this guy cousins with Jeff Nipper? Do you see how easy that came off the floor? He made it look easy. 3 plates. I've never done this before. Boom. Could have done it for 10 reps. And so when he had that initial 258-pound deadlift, I think it's a little sus. Pretty sure he was holding back. Was that actually how many he got for 5 reps? Didn't he say he was going to do a 5-rep max and then predict what it could do for 1? I certainly don't believe that he got this strong this quickly and never had any idea that he could actually pull 3 plates for 1 rep. It was far too easy, like butter.
They have to wait for the ref to give them the specific command. And if you jump the gun and you don't wait for the ref's call, it's a no lift.
And so all of this is 100% true. When you're lifting in competition, there are very specific rules. A squat command, a press command, different things for the squat, bench press, and deadlift. And so all you have to do is practice when you're practicing. Before you do a squat, look up and wait till someone says, squat. Once you do that, you get used to it. And when you're done the set, they're going to say rack. So stop when you're done, re-rack the weight, practice this in competition as they are doing right now. And once you get on stage to do the real thing, it's going to be easier. It's going to be muscle memory.
Let me take my shirt off one more time. Here's day 1 of powerlifting, and here's day 108.
And so remember, we have a before and after 100 days of training, but remember, he's doing it while being natural, and so no major changes. I would argue he looks a little bit leaner, perhaps a 0.5% leaner on the right, although he is more tan, so hard to say. But he did notice a 0.5 inch size difference in the arms. Easily could have been attributed to measuring slightly off on the arm. I've had my arms measured off. They placed the tape measure slightly off of the peak, and it can be a 0.5 inch difference. And so I don't think that he would have gained a 0.5 inch on his biceps from doing powerlifting. It's usually the least muscle growth you're going to see. I would have expected to see much more growth in the legs considering he hasn't been squatting. But aside from that, he looks amazing both in the before and the after.
My first attempt should be easy and get me on the board. My second attempt should be a stretch. And my third attempt, lifting way more weight than I've ever attempted before.
No! You have 3 attempts. On the first attempt, you go for something that you know you can get. Typically a 3 rep max, something that's not easy, but certainly within your grasp, you should be able to get it. On the second attempt, assuming you get the first, you go a little bit heavy, perhaps 5, maybe 10% more weight. This weight should be something that you could perhaps get for 2 reps, something around there. And on the third attempt, you go for what you think you can get. You don't go 110%. You don't put 10% more than you can get. You don't throw up a PR just for shits and giggles and hope for the best. You plan this out. If you're deadlifting 400 pounds in competition, you're not going to go 110%. Oh, put on 440 because I did 400 in training. Perhaps you want to just do the same lift that you did in training. If you've gotten 400 pounds in training, let's see you do it on the platform. After having already squatted and benched, perhaps you're tired. Perhaps you cut weight. Perhaps you're nervous, and so you don't put up 110%. If anything, you perhaps go for a small PR, at most 5 pounds more than you can do, and you would then be very happy if you get it. You shouldn't be risking things and putting on crazy amounts of weight and perhaps potentially getting injured. Much better to lift within your means, especially on your first competition, and just have fun.
Changed my original plan and increased my attempt to 353 pounds. This would smash my previous best in training, and it would be 2 times the weight I started with.
And so here's the mistake. If the first attempt was that easy, you jump higher on your second attempt. He went from 284, I believe, to 308. The next jump that makes sense is 330, but he's jumping to 352. That's a 44-pound increase. What you don't want to see is a small increase, then a huge increase. You always want to see it either progress linearly or slightly go down. And so after that 285-pound lift, give or take, he should have then perhaps gone 320. It would have made sense. We know he has the strength for it, and so why bother with 308? Or if you're feeling that strong in the warm-up room, rather than starting with 286, you start with 300. If you feel good, you feel strong, and the warm-ups are going easy, you can always go and tell the referee up to a certain amount of minutes before the competition, this is what my first lift is going to be. You then say, hey, I'm starting with 300. I felt good. And to the opposite extent, if you're warming up and you have a sore back, legs, and so on, you're not having a good day, you can lower your warm-up. And so that attempt that you give a couple hours before the competition, or perhaps the day before, depending on your federation, you can lower it while warming up in the competition. Did you know that? I'm here to educate. Remember, I've done close to 70 powerlifting competitions in my life, and so I do know a thing or two about powerlifting. And so the fact that he get this doesn't show that I'm wrong. It just shows that he made improper attempts. Why would you start with 286 pounds and 308 then jump to 350? If you were this strong, you should have jumped faster on your second attempt. When the first attempt looks that easy, the coach and the athletes then goes and says, hey, that was so easy. Rather than jumping 10 kilograms, we're going to jump 15, maybe even 20. That is what you do when lifting in competition. Now, imagine it didn't work out. Imagine he'd failed this attempt. Perhaps he didn't go low enough or perhaps hurt his back. He'd be stuck with only 308 when in fact he could have gotten a lot more. And so the smart lifters use smart attempts. It is not just a competition of strength, it's also about picking proper lifts. And again, the exact same mistake that was done on the squat, he's doing it on the bench press. He's jumping only 5 kilograms on the second attempt, then jumping 10 kilograms on the third attempt. You're supposed to jump bigger on the second and smaller on the third. This is how it works. I'm just telling you. And if he gets it, doesn't mean I'm wrong. It just means that they went too light on their first 2 attempts. And he gets it with ease. And so what that tells me is the second attempt should have been a lot heavier. Why jump only 5 kilograms? You should have jumped 7.5, maybe 10. That would have been a lot better for the second attempt. Then you know exactly how much you can add on the third. And so here's the thing. He starts with 375, looks easy. How can you not put 400 on your next attempt? Puts on 397. The next attempt I would have put it would have been 402. Everyone wants to break the 400-pound barrier, and so why not put on 402? You already got 375. If you don't get 402, so be it. But 402, it sounds so much cooler than 397. So if I'm a coach and I have an athlete and it's getting that kind of lift, it's 402. It's never 397. And again, with the huge jump on the third lift, he went from 375 to 397, a 22 jump. Then he jumped 45 pounds. And he gets it. But did you see the 375? Any coach in their right mind would have looked at that and said, that is easy. 402 is the minimum. You're going 402. But really, I would have said, let's go 420. This is easy. And why are we starting with 375? We're opening with 402. You're in the warm-up room. You're deadlifting. You're probably doing a plate. Then you're probably doing 2 plates, probably doing 3 plates. By the time you get to 3 plates, do you not know, hey, I'm feeling it? It's a great day. I'm not starting with 375. Why waste it on the platform? I'm starting with 402. I feel 440. I want 200 kilograms. I can't wait to pull it.
So the results are in, and I finished in 3rd place.
And so those numbers, he's incredibly strong. Remember when he first started, he was actually weaker than most women who powerlift in competition, at least at the national level. But now his lifts are phenomenal. 440 deadlift weighing 158 pounds, 264 pound bench, 353 pound squat. These are big numbers. And he's only been training for what, 100 days? This guy's incredible.
From 185 pounds to 352 pounds, and from 200 pounds to 264 pounds, 256 pounds to 441 pounds.
Now, if I just saw these numbers, I would say this isn't natural. He tore his pec at a 1st or 2nd degree sprain, couldn't train for about 4 to 6 weeks, and put on a 32% increase in his bench press. His squat went from 185 to 350. The deadlift went from 256 to 440. Does this even make sense? But here's the thing. I don't believe that he pushed himself at the start. Had he have had a competition on day 1, I think he would have pulled hard. I don't think he quite pushed himself into the depths that he could have to really edge out every ounce of strength he had on day 1. I think perhaps he went easy. Maybe it made the numbers look a little bit easier so that at the end, there's so much more of an improvement. And remember, we looked at his physique. Does he look twice as strong to you? Does he look like he made major improvements? Not really. Perhaps improved a little bit, but his strength went through the roof. And so here's the thing. If he made these kind of improvements in 3 months, remember, I do believe he's natural. And he did, in fact, experience an injury. Imagine if he trains 3 more months. 3 more years. This guy has elite level genetics. You might be thinking, no, he doesn't. He's 5'8" and 158 pounds. He's 5'8", 158 pounds and almost doubled his strength in 3 months. How common is that? It's not very common. So perhaps he wasn't the strongest guy in the world naturally without having trained, but perhaps he has very great genetics for improving quicker than last time. His genetics allow him to keep going. And so I'd love to see him continue to powerlift. I'd love to see him get a 300-pound bench, a 400-pound squat, and a 500-pound deadlift. I believe he can get this at his very next meet. And so give this guy a follow. Great video. Absolutely enjoyed him. He's such a great guy. Can tell from his enthusiasm, the video quality, everything amazing. Please go follow. And if you're interested in hard and last time supplements, use code Greg, 10% off. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it. Watch one of those 2 bloops. And of course, the cookbooks, the training books, the training guide, the training book, 3 of these, beginner, intermediate, advanced. You can get those on my website, code Greg, 15% off. And the hard and last time clothing line as well. Please head over to my website, and until next time, I am out.